35mm f1.4 for Sony E-Mount for only $200. Yeah, those lenses exist. 7Artisans 35 f1.4 review. Let's go. What's good, guys? My name is Oleg Nikitin and you're watching No Limits on channel from Russia with love. And let's get to the review. I have decided not to only make a review of this lens, but also to compare it with my Sony 35mm f1.8 autofocus lens, Sony FE 35, which I have a separate review right here, a big one. And let's compare the size and weight. 7Artisans weighs only 300 grams and made out of metal and feels like a small grenade. But the autofocus version, the 35 f1.8 from Sony, weighs only 281 grams. In the kit we get the lens itself, the front cap, which is just pops like so, the back cap, the rear cap, which is also a good one. So here we have a pretty nice build quality, it's made out of metal. Here we have our aperture ring, which clicks very gently and nicely. Aperture range from f1.4 to f16, and the focusing ring, which has about 90 degrees of rotation. It works really smoothly and gently, no issues here. As you might have guessed, this lens is a totally manual lens with manual aperture and manual focusing ring without any connections and connectors to your camera. By the way, the lens mount is made out of metal, but it has no weather sealing gasket. So the focusing manually is okay. I've been using for like 3 years or maybe 4 years the Luxia from Carl Zeiss. I have a review right here, 35 f2, and I was pretty accurate in manual focusing, so it's not an issue for me. And this lens has very smooth focusing ring, and I was able to get some shots in focus. But, you know, the picture quality is a little soft, I'll show you in a minute. That is why it's a little bit tough to focus precisely and correctly with this lens. And now, guys, the picture quality comparison with the 35 f1.8. Basically, 7Artisans has a really poor picture quality till like f5.6. On f1.4, f2 we have like a vintage look image, very soft, a lot of vignettes, and not really sharp at all. And it's kind of more of a stylized look, as I said before, and if you want this kind of stylized look, this lens is a good one. But considering its price and its aperture, maybe we shouldn't expect anything more, and the 35 f1.8 just destroys it in all of the aspects, in terms of sharpness, in terms of vignettes, in terms of picture quality, and all that. So yeah, just have a look at my test footage and decide by yourself whether you need this kind of lens in your backpack. This lens has 11 bladed aperture, which means it has very smooth autofocus and bokeh, comparing to the Sony 35 f1.8, which has 9 bladed aperture. You can see that the bokeh from the 7Artisans lens is really dreamy looking and kind of vintage looking, and had kind of the same bokeh with my Luxia f2. If you do need this type of bokeh, for instance, you're shooting kind of a dreamy sequence in your movie or your music video, or you need to fake something like a Super 8 film, this lens will be really handy. And by the way, guys, smash the like button if you do enjoy the vintage look and vintage lenses. And now the focus breathing test. Focus breathing is when the scale of the picture changes when you defocus and go into focus from the infinity to minimal focus and distance. And yeah, you can see the results by yourself. And I was really astonished and amazed how good the 35mm f1.8 autofocus lens is. It has virtually no focus breathing at all. And now let's talk flares. Of course, the 7Artisans 35 f1.4 lens is very flary, because it almost has no coatings, I guess, in the glass itself, inside of the lens, and you get kind of a rainbowy, very funny and, you know, interesting flares, and if you're looking for such flares in your shots for stylization, is their word, to stylize your shots, this lens is a good choice. And the 35 f1.8 autofocus lens is showing great performance in terms of flares, in my opinion. The minimal focusing distance is 40 centimeters, which is okay. It's good enough for a 35mm lens, but the 35 AF just destroys this lens in terms of minimal focusing distance. It's almost like a macro lens, and I was shooting with the 35 AF all of the macro shots for this lens review, for the Viltrox lens review, the link is here, for TT-Artisan 21 f1.5, which is coming soon on my channel. So basically I didn't need a macro lens to get kind of a macro-y shots. The filter thread size is 46mm, which is a very tiny filter right there. And finally, the price. The price of this lens is $200, which is not a lot. Comparing to the Sony 35 f1.8, which costs $650, and comparing to the Luxia, which I've mentioned before from Carl Zeiss, it costs, may I have your attention please, $1,150. Yeah, that's a ton. So guys, the conclusion. This is a very small, very compact lens for full-frame cameras, for Sony cameras, which has a very bright aperture but kind of so-so image quality and reminds me of a vintage lens, which is good if you want to have that look and bad if you want a very crisp and sharp image. In these terms, the 35 f1.8 AF is just destroying everything on the market, and I consider this lens to be the best for video work on the Sony system for now, bang for a buck. So guys, what are your thoughts on this 7Artisans 35 f1.4 lens? Please share in the comment section below. Once again, hit the like button if you enjoyed it and subscribe button if you liked it and hit the notifications bell to be notified. Also, here is my Instagram and a couple of interesting videos for you guys to check out. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Oleg Nikitin and I see you in the next video on the No Limit Sound channel. Take care. Bye.